Did you know that 9 out of 10 traders are wasting their time? Only 20% of your effort translates to 80% of your results. What if I could teach you how you can identify the 80% time wasters so you can focus on the 20% that you can actually work on? How much would that be worth to you? Hi, this is Andy and welcome to my talk. And today I'm going to share with you how you can trade efficiently. So before that, I would like to introduce myself a little bit. So I was a rocket scientist for 7 years, and I am one of the founders of 1111 Index Trading. I am a real estate investor and a trader. So I think that's it. I don't really need to introduce myself so much. But I would like to introduce you to 1111 Index Trading a little bit. So 1111 index trading has currently two strategies. So the main goal of the whole index trading is that the total time for the day that you'll be allotting for trading is minimized. So as much as possible, we only spend around 1 hour per day. So currently there are two strategies, 1112 and 1111. And there are others on the way, but we really make sure and study so that when we combine all of these strategies, even if they increase in number, we will still be spending minimized screen time. Okay, so enough about that. I wouldn't be really selling 1111 index trading to you, but I would like to share my personal journey too. Okay, so are you familiar with the Pareto rule? So the Pareto rule states that 20% of inputs account for 80% of the outputs. Imagine that. When I began trading around 10 years ago, I started with the local stock market because I didn't know that there are other options back then. So I began my career. So I started flying satellites at the time, and I also started learning about the stock market. We all know that in the local stock market, we manually execute things, right? So whether it's a buy or a sell, you have to manually execute stuff. So you can't just plug in the number and it will execute for you. So at that time, that was not possible. So I would spend a lot of hours during the weekends and I would monitor the markets during the weekdays. So even if I was profiting from the markets, I realized that it was taking a lot of time from me. So one of my goals was to minimize the time. However, it was giving me profits, but it was taking away my time, which I think was taking away my life because my time is my greatest or most precious commodity. And so when I learned about the global markets, I realized how powerful it was. Long story short, my performance in the global markets, in terms of the percentage and the actual gains, are much larger compared to my local trading performance before. And yet, I am spending so much less time. So, I'd like to give some tips to you on how you can do this for your own trading. So, I really encourage you, especially women, to look into your goals because you might be reaching some of your goals, but they are compromising on other goals or eating up your other goals. So we have to make sure, as women especially, that all of our goals are met. And this requires creativity. And this requires outside of the box thinking, like there's no box at all. Okay? So, without further ado, let me share with you some tips on how you can do this. So, I think the first thing that you have to take into account is the bigger picture. So the first question is, what is the end goal that you want to achieve? Okay, so generally, for me, it will be time and profits. So, for example, for me, I wanted minimal time. I only wanted to spend a maximum of 1 hour per day. And I wanted to reach my previous performance in the local markets or even more. And later on, we will dive into this further. And then the next question is, which systems are a waste of time? Okay. So I'm not going to share these things with you based on my opinion. Everything that I'm going to share with you will be based on numbers. I am a numbers person. So this will be based on the expectancy formula. I'm telling you right now, there are so many systems out there, some paid, some free. And I'll be very honest with you. A lot of these systems are a waste of your time. Some even paid ones. So this is not based on my opinion, but based on formula. Because the formula is not a mere opinion. It's an estimation, it's a projection of what your trading is going to look like in the long term. So that formula is called expectancy, and it's very important. Most people who study different strategies fail to look at the expectancy of that system in the first place. Okay, so this is very crucial. This is probably done only by 5% or less when trying to learn for a particular system. I would like to thank Edward Zinn for introducing expectancy. So this is a very powerful formula. Don't ever learn a system without first understanding what expectancy means, because this will determine which ones are worth your effort. So have you asked yourself, how many hours a day do you really want to trade? Actually, typically, we don't even ask that question, right? Because we think it is required to spend a lot of hours on the screen, looking at the screen, filtering stocks, analyzing, entering, exiting, studying. We really think it's a requirement, so we don't even ask that question. Can we reduce the number of hours required? So I'm telling you today, it is possible. There had been a lot of people who minimize their screen time, like older ones with so many decades of experience. So I'm telling you right now, you can set that expectation. You can expect a certain system or certain systems to help you gain from the markets with minimal time. Because when you expect it, it's either you notice it when it passes by you or you create it. So it's up to you, right? So the next question will be, this is also connected with that. During the weekends, do you want to spend your time watch listing? How many minutes? How many hours? So are you the kind of person who doesn't want to do a watch list on weekends? Or you want to do it for less than 10 minutes per weekend? Or you don't mind spending an hour? Or you don't mind spending hours and hours during the weekends? Hey, so again, I think we don't even ask this question. Nobody dares ask this question because we think it's expected. It's a requirement for us to succeed in trading. So, the first thing that you have to realize is in trading, yes, of course, when you're a newbie, you have to keep on accumulating. You learn, you try, you see, you explore, you study, and all. However, you will come to a point wherein to move forward, you have to understand the Pareto principle already. You cannot fly high with so many weights at your back. So you just have to let go of the 80% of the inputs that generate only 20% of the output. So you have to convince yourself to make yourself believe that an hour a day is enough or even less. That on weekends you don't need to spend 10 hours of your weekend life just to be profitable in trading. You have to make yourself believe. You have to understand that some people are already doing it. So for the first set, you have a win rate of 30% with an average RRR or risk to reward with a risk of 1 for every reward of 5. So the risk is 1, reward 5 with a frequency of 150 trades per year. So more or less 3 trades per week. Okay? So your next set is 80% win rate. Wow. With a average risk to reward of 4 risk for every 1 reward. So the risk is 4 and the reward is 1. With a frequency of 240 trades per year or essentially 1 trade per day. Then the next is 65% win rate with an average risk to reward of 1 is to 1.375, where the risk is 1 and the reward is 1.375. So can you pick a set without really computing for it. Just, kung ano yung vibe mo. Saan ka na-attract. Okay? So, is it set 1, set 2, or set 3? So, how do you compute for expectancy? So, please write this formula and then compute for the different expectancies of these different sets. So, I think masyashock ka. So, what is expectancy? So, generally, sinasabi lang niya sa'yo what your typical profit yung makukuha mo for each trade placed. So, generally, it's the average amount you can expect to win or lose per trade with your system when a large number of trades are taken. So, dahil this one has frequency multiplied to it, you can say that this is an annualized expectancy. So, I call it the base expectancy. That's my own term because I can get the expected gain in terms of dollars for the year using this formula. If I multiply something to it, and also I can get the possible gain in percentage, and I can also get the possible gain in points, depending on what I multiply to this base expectancy. So, ito yung pinaka-base niya, pinaka-foundation niya. So, depende na lang kung ano yung i-multiply mo to get other values. So, it's not compounded. So, if you want to see for yourself what the compounded results would be, then you have to use your Excel and compute for it. Okay? So, generally, this is called actually the annualized expectancy because we multiplied the number of trades you expect to execute within a year. So, ano ba talaga yung meaning nito? Okay? So, eto na. Okay? So, marami pa akong ibibigay na number sa inyo. I'll be providing you with an Excel sheet with different expectancies, with a calculator for you to experiment with it para maintindihan nyo because this is the thing that you really have to understand before you make an effort in learning any system. Understood? Okay. So with the win rate or set A, with the win rate of 30%, your expectancy is 120. Clap, clap. Positive. So when you say it's a positive expectancy, yung system mo will generate profits in the long run. So for 1 year, after 150 trades, positive ka. Hindi ka negative, hindi ka break even. If you follow the rules of that system. Okay? So if you multiply yung dollar value of your average loss, makukuha mo yung expected gain mo in dollars na hindi compounded. Okay? So if you multiply naman your percentage loss or points in SL, yun din yung makukuha mo. So, that's why it's called the base. Okay? So, generally, naman, your dollar loss for every trade is the same. For example, magti-trade ka using system A or B or C, dapat pare-pareho lang yan because you have to have risk management. If may isang system dyan that requires you to risk more for every trade, then mag-isip-isip ka na. So, that's when we'll talk about number 2 with the 80% win rate. So, this one gets a 0 expectancy. So, pag minultiply mo yung dollar value, minultiply mo yung points, minultiply mo yung percentage, anything you multiply by 0 is betlog. Ba't ka ba mag-e-effort dyan? Okay? So, I've seen strategies like this. So, basura. Right? So, it makes it even worse. Let's try 5:1. 80%, 5:1, 240 trades. Okay? So, adjust lang natin. It will give you negative 10. So, matik, when you see a strategy like this, what do? You run away as fast as you could. Kahit na magaling yung speaker, kahit na sabi niya magaling siya, kahit na sinabi niya nagka-million na siya, wala kang pakialam. You don't get attached to any person, to any speaker. If their numbers are so bad, never ever get attached to anything except the numbers. Don't get emotionally attached to any person, to any mentor, to even me. Diba? Or to a system that you've been studying. Ay, inaral ko na to. 10 years ko nang inaaral ito. Tapos ngayon ko lang nalaman yung expectancy. Negative 5 pala. Kaya pala. Paano pa akong negative 10? Takbo! Diba? Run away as fast as you could. Right? Why would you stick to that? Sa dinami-dami ng strategies out there that could profit Nagmagsistick ka pa doon sa negative. I think dito umiikot yung talk ko. Never, ever use a system with a negative expectancy. Lalo na kung yun yung best case nila. Kung ang best case mo is -10, ang worst case mo, I'm telling you right now, is wipe out. That's when you lose all of your capital. And when you lose all of your capital, it takes a lot to bounce back, not just monetarily, but also mentally. You know, madidrain ka. It's very, very hard for you to pick up yourself pag na-wipe out ka na. I've seen a lot of traders na na-wipe out. So, any system that brings you to wipe out, that pushes you to wipe out, kahit pa sabihin nilang in between your starting line and your wipe out, magkakamilyon ka in between. It doesn't matter. Anything you multiply by 0 is 0. Na any system that will pass by multiplying your portfolio by 0 should be avoided. Okay? Malinaw ba yan? So please, even if sobrang galing magsalita ng tao, wala dapat kayong pakialam. When you see a negative expectancy, you run away. Dapat ang sasabihin nyo, this speaker is full of toot! Joke lang. Okay, so next, it's 65% win rate. I am sure a lot of you didn't choose this because it has, typically we're used to, low win rate pero high RRR, very good RRR. But we are underestimating the power of the combination of win rate, RRR, and frequency. So in this case, for me, I would be choosing the last one. Okay, so it's a positive expectancy. So I'm telling you today that there's so many systems out there that are not even worth a minute of your time. Ganun kalala. I know there will be a lot of people who will be reacting, wala akong pakialam. This is not my opinion. It's a matter of formula, and I'm a formula person. Kung gusto nyo, awayin yung gumawa ng formula, which you can never do. Because even if the person who created the formula didn't exist, someone who is inclined to mathematics will be able to formulate this. Napakadali lang nung formula. It's very easy, right? So don't get attached to me. Don't get attached to anyone. Don't get attached to any market. Don't get attached to any system. No matter how long you've been using it, always check the numbers. Because the numbers will tell you kapag pwede ka nang mag-filter down. Meaning, pwede ka nang mag-start na mag-pareto-pareto. You cannot apply Pareto if your general or your broad system is not ready for it. It's basura. When you filter basura, you still get basura. If you filter things that are packed with good things and best things, and you filter those things, you're left with the best things, with the better and best things. Tatanggalin mo yung good. But when you're dealing with, basura, sinusyal ko yung basura, ginawa ang basura, you'll be left with still basuras. Do you get my point? So I think one of the most fundamental things that we neglect in terms of wanting to improve our trading system is asking, am I running in the right direction? Minsan, ang bilis nating tumakbo. Baka kabila pala. Sa likod pala natin yung finish line, pabaligtad. So I think that's what happens when you're dealing with or when you're using a negative expectancy while expecting to profit from the market, tumatakbo kang pakabila. Tapos baligtad pa yung left and right shoes mo. Tapos hindi pa nakatay yung lace mo. Diba? So, you really have to ask yourself, am I running in the right direction? Kasi, may isa lang tayong nakitang trade. Wow! Ang laki ng gain niya! Bam! Attracted ka agad. Ano ka, beginner? Isang trade lang, na-attract ka na? Alam na alam nila kung paano i-attract yung mga beginner. Pero, dapat tatanong mo, ano yung win rate nyo po? Ano po yung RRR nyo? Pa-cute, pero nag-investigate ka na pala. Ano po yung frequency nyo per year? Bam! You analyze like a pro. Hindi yung isang trade lang, wow, enroll ako! Wow! Saya ko, no? Wag ganon. Diba? Siyempre papakita nila, puro magandang trade. Kailangan pinapakita natin na even if may drawdown, which is yung successive losses, Hindi na wipe out yung account. 'Di ba? Hindi yung, wow, ang laki ng kinita niya, naka-billion daw siya. Tapos next week, wipe out siya, hindi mo alam. Di ba? Ang dali nilang ma-attract yung mga beginners. You have to analyze like a pro. You have to ask regarding the details, di ba? We master our emotions. So, totoo lang, um, we always hear you have to manage your greed, you have to manage your fear, you have to do this, blah, blah, blah. But in reality, there's only one solution for me. So I'm expressing this as a numbers person again. So this is coming from my experience. And I really wanted to share with you because it's very effective for me. When I understood the numbers, when I knew what the numbers could do for me, my emotions were managed automatically. Because when you're trying to manage your emotions, pa isa-isa, pa greed, pa fear, pa unti-unti, you're dealing with the fruits of distrust, uneasiness dun sa system mo. However, when you understand the bigger picture, the long game that you're playing, you know your numbers, you're confident, you have a positive expectancy. For me, this worked. You know, when you master the numbers, your emotions will become more objective. Nadadrown na siya nung numbers, yung ability mo to understand the numbers. Malalaman mo that if I give in to my current emotion, dinidisrupt ko yung numbers ko. Dinidisrupt ko yung statistics ko overall. So sometimes I have to step back so that my numbers could work for my benefit. Okay? So again, when you understand the bigger picture, you understand that everything is a part of the game. By that, you yourself naturally would want to follow the rules. Because you want to maximize and optimize the numbers that you trust. Okay? So, umikot na tayo sa trading expectancy. Because that I think is very important and I needed to put a lot of emphasis onto it. I cannot emphasize it enough. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-filter down, hindi ka pwedeng mag-minimize ng hours if in the first place, the system that you're trying to improve, you're trying to trim is basura. You have to make sure that it's gold and you're trying to create a statue that is very artful and so on and not a pile of trash that you're trying to mold into something like a smoky mountain or something like that. Okay? So I'm gonna share with you my trading routine. So nowadays kasi I'm not sure if I'm pregnant, so nahihilo talaga ako. So there are days that I couldn't, stand up and I couldn't trade. But generally my routine is that I would wake up around 9 a.m. and I would look at the chart that I'll be trading. So and then I would analyze it sometimes for 5 minutes and I'll drink water, I'll wait for the time that I'll be executing it. So after a few minutes, I'll be executing it at the same time every day. So I'm just waiting for that particular time. And after that, I will set aside my laptop and every 15 minutes, babalikan ko siya. So, anong ginagawa ko? Kumakain ako, nanonood akong TV, so whatever. So, sometimes people would say na, ay, anong pangit naman yan? As I've told you, for me, it's not a requirement to keep on looking at my screen just to earn. I know my edge. So, alam kong hindi ko kailangan nakatingin sa screen. So, every 15 minutes, titignan ko yung chart. I would see if I have to adjust something. And generally, less than 1 hour lang yun. Pero if you take the time na nagtrabaho talaga ako sa screen, siguro less than 10 minutes lang. So, including the monitoring, including the planning and all. So, generally, with 1111, wala kang watch list. So, that is one system. So, that is the system I described earlier. So, hindi ka nag-watch list ng weekend because you only trade one instrument. You're focused on one instrument. So, even if it's just one instrument and you only look at it for a few minutes per day, mas madali siyang i-master simply because you're dealing with just one behavior, with one instrument. Okay, you're trying to master one instrument and you're trying to master that particular hour of that instrument. So it's, a little bit easier. Okay? So I'm not saying it's easier talaga. It's a little bit easier when it comes to the learning curve. Okay? So the next one is 11-12. So for 11-12, what I do is on weekends, I would scan particular instruments. So specifically Bitcoin and commodities. Probably maximum is 10 minutes per weekend. So by Monday morning, so the plan, usually I would have 3 to 5 plans. So generally, actually, minsan 1 to 2 lang or sometimes not all. So for example, if I have 3 plans and one of them or two of them are GTCs, meaning I can just enter them by by Monday morning. I'll just enter them and then I'll just check them once a day for so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Titignan ko lang. So that's less than 5 minutes a day. So if ever there's an entry that needs a little monitoring, so titignan-tingnan ko siya. Mas titignan ko yun every day. So I'll check if there's already an entry. So generally 11-12 is around 10 minutes per weekend and around 5 to 10 minutes per day. So pag walang pumasok sa filter ko, then wala. Because commodities are just around, 40 instruments? I'm not sure. So right now, we're also studying the US market. So what I did was create filters. I've tested them for so many weeks. Even if when I was not feeling well, because um, hindi talaga maganda yung pakiramdam ko. I was able to create a filter and now I'm testing it forward, testing it. It only takes 5 minutes per weekend for me to create a watch list for the US market, and I'm now trying to test how to execute them because sometimes we think that once we have the watch list, we already have everything. But in reality, we have to practice how we execute, especially in a market. There's US market, there's Hong Kong market, there's Philippine market. The way we execute based on the market differs. We have, base behaviors. However, there are things that we can adjust so we can meet our goals and profit from that particular market and exhaust the advantages of that particular market. For example, for the global markets, pwedeng iwan mo lang, right? So for example, for me, I don't trade the local markets anymore. I only trade instruments na pwede kong iwan. Ibig sabihin, when I enter that trade, there's already the target price and there's the stop loss. And I'll just have to monitor it, let's say every 15 minutes for 11-11 or every other day or every day for 11-12. So it's that simple. So the rest of the day, what do I do? I do whatever. So um, I look at real estate properties or properties. Naguguluhan na ako. And then I also watch Netflix. So lately, as I've said, I've been feeling unwell. So most of the time, I'm resting. So hindi ako ganun ka-aggressive at this point. But since na-establish ko na yung 2 strategies, yun yung ginagamit ko. And then slowly, I'm building up on my, you know, filters sa ibang markets. So, that's it. I think it's very important. So, kung may takeaway man kayo dito, I hope na the first one is that it's possible to profit from the market or even more na less yung time. Kasi sabi ko nga, kung sinabi ko man kanina, is that nung lumipat ako ng global markets, ang layo na naging performance ko. Parang naging baby lang yung performance ko sa Philippine stock market. And yet, I'm spending much less time. So, dapat itanong mo siya, posible ba to? And if you have other goals, na hindi lang time, let's say you have other goals, no? Huwag mong i-compromise just for trading kasi tingin mo ito yung requirement for trading. You always have to challenge your own beliefs. Take it down to fundamental truths and then ask yourself, fundamental truth ba talaga to? Should I really follow this belief? Or can I create something, di ba? And then, the next one is that you have to have positive expectancy. Okay? So if the best case of your system is 0 or negative expectancy, it's either actually you're just fooling yourself. Okay? You have to ask for the best case of that system. You have to ask other students because, you have to ask for their numbers, not how they feel. Because a lot of students would be using a system with negative expectancy, but with a lot of attachment to it. I've seen that, so many times. They're so attached to a certain system that has negative expectancy. And since they've invested a lot already, not only money, but time, effort, and all, talagang ang hirap turuan. Okay? Always be teachable, especially if numbers are the ones teaching you. Remember, this is a numbers game. This is not, you know, pabonggahan ng mentor, pasikatan. No matter how many followers a speaker has, kung negative ang expectancy, you have to be very cautious. Because this is money we're talking about. And sometimes people, you know, use as capital their life savings. Talagang minsan, parents, retirement funds pa yung ginagamit nila. Really, you have to emphasize risk management. You have to emphasize, looking at the bigger picture, understanding the numbers in the first place. So I am telling you right now, you have to share this message with other people that want to learn, with other traders that you have to share this message. You have to post about expectancy. You read about it, you study it, you research and all. Then you share it with other people. Because you'll never know who you're going to save. If only this person, let's say there's this particular person who is planning to use a strategy na negative expectancy, using yung capital niya is all of his life savings, pangkasal na sana niya, pambili niya ng bahay, inipon niya ng so many years as an OFW. Kung pinost mo lang or you or explain expectancy, napigilan sana, 'di ba? If only they understood.